Hello, welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Please silence all cell phones and note that this meeting is being taped by FCTV. If there's any private party recording the hearing, please step up to the podium to request permission. I'll introduce the board and the staff. On my far right is Mark Finneran. To my closest right is Scott Peterson. I'm Suzanne Murphy, Chair. To my left is Tony Bertucci, and then we have Nick Haney. Noreen Stockman is our zoning administrator, and Ashley DeMello, the office assistant. The Zoning Board of Appeals is charged with applying the state zoning statutes as well as the town zoning bylaws and reviewing and voting on applications. All decisions are made through the public hearing process. Our goal is to hear testimony from the applicants and the public and to allow a full and fair discussion of the project prior to closing the hearing process and reaching a decision. Number one, to begin each hearing, the clerk will read the public announcement for the hearing and read pertinent information from the file. Two, the applicant or the applicant's representative will then have 15 minutes to make a presentation, but time may be extended by a vote of the board. Three, the board will then question the applicant. Four, then the public will be invited to comment. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes and be strictly related to the proposal. All members of the public wishing to speak should wait to be recognized by the chair and then come to the podium. State your name and address for the record and speak into the mic. It will not amplify your voice, and record audio for FCTV viewers. And before we do the first hearing, if anyone wants to make a public comment on anything that's not on our agenda, you're welcome to come up. Anybody? All right, so we'll start off. On our agenda, I'm just going to get one out of the way because it's a request for a continuation. It's case 08325. I think the last name is Voci, 391 Currier Road in East Falmouth. And I will need a motion.
Motion to, they wanted a request for continuation. I'll make a motion to continue. Do we have a
March 26th.
motion to continue to March 26, 2026?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, none.
It'll be light out by now.
What's the date?
March 26th? So, yeah. And so the first hearing is 07125 Fashion Food LLC, which is a continuation. Added to the file, we have information from the planning board and then one letter against. And tonight, we'd really like to get through the traffic, if we could. So if the traffic person is here. Is that you? I didn't know it was you.
I apologize, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is Jeffrey Dirk. I'm the managing partner with Vanessa & Associates. And as I said, walking up to the podium, we were retained by the town to undertake a review of the materials submitted by the applicant in support of the project. In particular, obviously, we reviewed the transportation analysis that was provided. We also reviewed the site plans. Our comments as they pertain to the site plans deal with the traffic aspect. So it's really looking at access, circulation, and parking as they relate to the site plan that's before you. So we issued a letter dated December 29th that identifies each of the items we reviewed as well as our comments pertaining to those items. I know that materials have been trickling in response to our letter, so we'll have a chance to review that prior to your next hearing. So I'll start with our comments as they relate to the transportation analysis that was undertaken by the applicant. So the applicant's analysis, our transportation impact evaluation, was dated September 11th, 2025. That's what forms the basis of our review. As the board's peer review consultant, the first thing that we look at with respect to their analysis is it in compliance with state standards as well as industry standards. So state standards are Massachusetts Department of Transportation requirements, and then, of course, because we're on the Cape, we also look at Cape Cod Commission standards. And really, as it relates to Cape Cod Commission standards, it's making sure that they considered summer month conditions. If we were on the mainland, not on the Cape, we'd be looking at average month conditions and not necessarily peak summer month conditions. So we take a look at it to make sure that they've characterized what the impact of the project may be during those summer month conditions. So as it relates to kind of that first test in our review, which is compliance with industry standards, it's a comprehensive transportation assessment, so we took no exception with the methodology, the data collection, any adjustments to the data that's been collected, and then the analysis that goes along with it. So our focus is then, given that the methodology is correct, is characterizing the impacts, and I think as it relates to this project, is looking at its relationship to the existing transportation infrastructure. And as you look through our comments, a lot of that really deals with kind of the existing conditions that are going on in the area and the project's context in relation to those and how it may or may not exacerbate those conditions. So just focusing on our major comments, and two of them are really minor, but they get to kind of the crux of some of the items relative to mitigation that we've asked the applicant to consider. The study, as I said, it was done in September, but as you look at some of the descriptions of sidewalks, bike lanes, things like that, it was based on some previous work that was done, so it needed to be updated. That's important because as we're looking at safety and thinking about a restaurant at this location, there's going to be an increase in pedestrian and bicycle activity as well as motor vehicle traffic. So making sure that we have a good understanding of what is out there today and how it relates to the project site, both with respect to PEDs, bikes, but also public transportation services is important. So we've asked them to just update all of that information because that will give us some context. We reviewed all of that, so we understand it, but we want to make sure that as a part of your record, the applicant's been responsive to that rather than us providing that information to you. As I said, in terms of looking at the context of the project, I think what is significant as it relates to the project is there is some motor vehicle crash history in this area. And I know that the town and the state have undertaken some improvements, specifically at a couple of intersections close to the project site, which would be the Worcester Court, Springs Bar Road intersection right in front of the project site, high crash location. The town has undertaken some improvements. There was actually a road safety audit done that included that intersection. So as it relates to that intersection, especially because it's right near the project site, what we've asked the applicant to do is take a review of that road safety audit to understand, as the town and the state went and conducted this audit, they identified safety-related improvements, enhancements to the intersection. So we've asked them to inventory of that list of items that was identified, what has been done and what hasn't been done. The items that have not been done are things that we've suggested should be considered as a part of this project. Can they assist the town in implementing those improvements? And again, that's a location where we did have some pedestrian crashes or pedestrian-related crashes as well. Not significant, but the fact that there's potentially going to be an increase in people crossing Worcester Court to get to the project site makes it important that we have a safe intersection as it relates to being able to get there by walking or biking to the project site. So we've asked them to undertake a review of that road safety audit. The same thing with respect to the Route 28 Springs Bars Road, Dillingham Avenue intersection. Both of those intersections are important as we look at the Worcester Court intersection. 80% of the traffic that's related to this project is going to go through that intersection. So we're going to have an increase in level of activity, so we need to make sure it's safe. As we look over at Route 28, that intersection is going to have about 35% of the traffic. So again, that was a high crash location. Some improvements have been done. Same thing, road safety audit was performed there. So we want to understand what has not been done that potentially needs to be done as we think about that increase in vehicular traffic at that intersection. Going through kind of our recommendations as it relates to the project, safety were those two items that we've asked them to look at and discuss with us and with the board what can be done in terms of enhancing safety at the intersection. We did ask for some review of mobility at the intersection of Worcester Court and Springs Bar Road. I know that a flashing beacon has been installed. Thinking about the crossings of the intersection, what we've asked is that a review of the ADA compliance. Again, as we're having the project and wanting to encourage pedestrian trips at the intersection, we want to make sure that it does meet the compliance items for the Americans with Disability Act. That also does go to our comment on the site plan, and I know that there's some sensitivity with respect to the landscaping that's right on the corner of the intersection, but I think as you're looking at the site plan, there's a sidewalk from within the site that kind of directs you around that, but it doesn't get you to the crosswalk. And what we've asked is that that be reviewed because of the crash history at the intersection. We do not want to direct pedestrians to be crossing outside of the crosswalk. So we would rather have them or direct them up to the intersection where the crosswalk actually exists, and then have them cross there rather than, short of that or south of where that crossing exists. We've also suggested that because of the crash history, that consideration be given to enhanced signing, so pedestrian crossing warning signs at and in advance of that crossing across Worcester Court. And then as an added enhancement, we've suggested consideration of installing a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, which is the flashing lights when you push the push button at the intersection. So again, those are things we've asked the applicant to go back and take a look at. We've also suggested that as it relates to employee-related trips, the bus does go by the project site. Again, walking, biking, there's been some investment in terms of making improvements in the area. We want to make sure that there's opportunities for the employees of the project to travel to the site by use of an alternative mode of transportation. So if they don't need to drive a car and park within the site, they can use the bus, it's available. They can walk, they can bike. So making sure they're aware of it and that management is encouraging those types of transportation modes to the project site. So with respect to our transportation analysis, that's our comments that we've asked the applicant to look at. In looking at the impact of the project, and the applicant may have presented this to you, the project itself, given the nature of the use, which is a fast food restaurant, it draws a lot of its traffic from the existing traffic stream. So I think they probably told you that about half the trips are expected to be derived from existing traffic on Worcester Court and adjacent roadways. So it's not really, from the standpoint of creating new trips to the area, they're expecting it somewhere between 60 and 70 new trips during each of the peak hours of the day. We've verified those calculations, and we do agree with those. What's important as well is if they presented to you the total trips, those are new trips, 60 to 70, but as it relates to the driveways, it's 100% new trips. So as you think about vehicles entering or exiting the driveways, at the driveways, there'll be somewhere between 120 and 150 trips going in and out of those driveways. Those two-way traffic, so roughly half in, half out. But that's the traffic at the driveways themselves. And so that's important as we're thinking about the increase in turning movements on Worcester Court or coming out on Springs Bar Road where they have the exit driveway itself. So not a large increase in terms of net new traffic to the area, but as it relates to turning movements at the driveways, that's what the increase is. The driveways will experience a turning movement increase of somewhere between 120 and 150 vehicles at the driveways. So I just want to provide that just in terms of context. That's important as I think the applicant as we go through our next set of comments, which really deal with a site plan. Because of that level of activity that's happening at the driveways, obviously it's got to be processed within the site itself. The one-way circulation they have that's in a counterclockwise direction is the most efficient way to manage that level of activity. A lot of those trips are going to be going to the drive-through. Providing that bypass lane also allows for internal circulation to take place. So it's able to process this volume of traffic within the project site. And then as we look off-site, again, because we have somewhere between 60 to 70 additional new trips. If we disperse that to each of the roadways, it's not showing in terms of analysis that there's significant changes in terms of added delays or queuing at intersections. So I think the queuing was probably somewhere at max in an August or July-August condition was somewhere between 6 to 7 additional vehicles on any of the approaches at the Worcester Court Springs Bar Road intersection. When you get away from that intersection, the concentrated traffic is much less because it's dispersed to the various roads in the area. So I think that's important as we're looking at the site plan. It's laid out well to accommodate these traffic projections that they have in terms of flow within the project site. I can answer questions relative to the traffic analysis, or I can move right into the site plan and answer all the questions at the end, whatever the chair would like.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Tony.
What do you consider as summer peak traffic volume times for this site, for this town, given its vacation town?
In terms of month of the year?
What months, yeah, so part of what this board has to consider for standards of approval or denial, traffic study, it has to be based on summer peak traffic volume times. When was this traffic study done? And when are the summer peak traffic volume days, months, weeks?
So the traffic counts were done in August, and they were done in August
Were
of
done in August.
2024. The peak traffic volumes generally there'll be after July 4th, so it's generally later in July and early August. So it's a July-August time period. And I think that's generally consistent, has been consistent historically. So the data has been collected in August, and that's what they used as a part of their analysis.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Their proposal at the exit to require all traffic to turn right, except for the delivery trucks, which I totally question, but relative to that, who's going to put these signs up?
So the applicant would need to do that, but they would need permission from the town since they're in the town right of way. They obviously can put a sign within their site that says that, but it's not enforceable unless it's enforceable if you include it as a condition of the project, but to be really enforceable, it has to be in the public right of way and accepted by the town. If that being the case, then the police department can enforce it. Absent that, it's really something that you'd put a condition on it. Someone would need to observe that happening, and then call for enforcement. But if the signs in the public right-of-way and the police department are out there, they can enforce
So
it.
we have to assume that the police department or the traffic committee are going to accept this. Wouldn't it be prudent for us to find out beforehand?
If the applicant has made representation, because I did not see that in the materials that I reviewed, I don't know if that's new or if it's
That's
something.
what they've proposed at the beginning,
Yeah.
but I'm doubtful that any of it's going to work, to be completely honest with you.
So my
I
concern.
mean, if you're pulling out of the place and where your destination is left,
Correct.
you're going to turn left. I don't care what anybody says. 50% of the people are going to turn left. What's their alternative? Go all the way up Mara Vista, cut through Walmart and down and around and over the speed bumps? Yeah, they might do that twice, and then they won't do it anymore,
So
especially when they're following trucks breaking the rules.
right. I would need to review if that's what the applicant proposed, because to your point, what I would more see is that if you can't come out and make a left-hand turn, if you've got a significant, over half the traffic that wants to go in that direction, let's say, if you're telling them that if they come out that exit, they can't go that way, then what it does is it means that the Worcester Court driveway is going to have more traffic than what was estimated in the traffic study. And if that traffic increases going north to make a left, the impact analysis, it's going to be a larger impact.
That was my next point, thank you.
And so that has not been evaluated and factored into their analysis. We identified the fact that as you look at that exit only out on the Springs Bar Road, that as you look at their analysis, and especially during the summertime, that queue goes past the driveway. So, I understand why they might be proposing it, but it forces some changes in terms of internal circulation and more use of that bypass lane. So because of the one-way circulation within the site, which I said is efficient as long as you can make the movements at the driveway and go in either direction, it's efficient. If you now all of a sudden concentrate the traffic down at the other area, you're adding more traffic going in the bypass lane that's going to come out directly next to the vehicles exiting from the drive-through that then need to come out to Worcester Court. So I have not seen that analysis, but I'd be a little bit concerned.
Yeah, but the non-lawbreakers are going to do that. How many are there? That's the question.
Right, and I think also it just gets back to if you're talking summertime traffic and people that are not maybe necessarily familiar with the area, but they want to get back to 28, it's not going to be intuitive to them that if they're at that point, that they need to go around the block. Despite what, Waze or other directional devices may tell them, it's not going to be intuitive. They're going to, if they came from 28, again, with this idea of it being a lot of pass-by trips, if it's a pass-by trip, that means I want to go back to where I started from, and I need to be able to get back there. And if I can't because you force me in a direction, it's a new trip, it's not a pass-by trip. So that's not been factored into the analysis.
It's kind of a gray area. We're going to need a lot more detail.
Right, but back, to the extent that that's something that, is desirable to the board, the sign, there has to be a sign in the public right-of-way in order for it to be enforceable. They can put a sign in the site, but you need a sign out opposite the driveway that tells you what you can and can't do, and then it's enforceable by the police department.
If they accept it as such.
Right.
Thank you.
May I have another, oh, I'm sorry, Scott, go ahead.
Just could you speak to, the applicant is proposing at its own expense to install a flashing stop signs on Spring Bars Road and then the digital radar speed signs. Could you speak to the effectiveness of those as far as the folks on the road and how they adhere to these things or not adhere to them from an industry?
Right. So I haven't seen the proposal for the flashing. I've seen the proposal for the warning signs. That was provided to me. I don't know if the flashing signs are something new that came in as a part of the, recent information. I can tell you, at least in terms of the radar speed feedback signs, you generally will get somewhere between a 3 to 5 mile an hour reduction from the 85th percentile speed. So if people are going really fast, much faster than the speed limit, and what you're trying to do is get them closer to the speed limit, at higher speeds, you can generally get a 3 to 5 mile an hour reduction in speed. If people aren't going that fast, they're not really that effective because they're already going slow enough. But that's generally what you'd be talking about for a speed reduction. So it is a proven countermeasure to achieve that level of speed reduction.
Okay. Thank you.
The flashing, if they're just talking about now stop signs with the enhanced borders, effective at night. I mean, that's really what it is. So I think that's why, as we asked the applicant to go back and look at the road safety audit, if what you're seeing is a large number of crashes related to, not obeying the stop sign, and that it's happening under low light conditions, that's a countermeasure that works. If you're having crashes during the peak hours, during the daytime, they're not going to be as effective if that's the type of crashes that are happening. So that's why we've asked them to go back and look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you. My question was asked and just answered. Thank you very much.
Sure. And I'll follow up to the extent that that's in any of the new materials. I'll provide feedback. And hopefully the turn restriction is a part of those, because I have not seen that.
On the RSA, it was 2017, right?
There were two of them that were done. The 27.
21.
Right, and one was the 2017. I think the 2017 was the Spring Bars intersection.
Right. And you kind of wanted the applicant to go find a copy of that, do like a checkoff list.
It's available online. Anyone can go and get it from Mass DOT's website. But that's exactly what I had asked them to do. Look at the countermeasures that were identified and then look and see what has been done and what hasn't been done. So that also provides a list to the board of here's everything that was identified, here's what's been done. It's kind of that checklist. And then to the extent that the things that aren't done that potentially could be done as a part of the project, that's what we wanted them to look at and say.
No, it's good, and it's good for the Transportation Committee, too, to have that.
That's the larger one that was done by Barnstable County?
There was one was done by the, I think one was done by the commission, and the other one might have been privately done.
I think the 21 one was done privately, I think.
Yeah, one of them, because the Barnstable County one I read for Sandwich Road, and I was quite amazed how many of the high traffic, high accident intersections were in Falmouth.
Yeah.
One of them being Jones Road and 28,
Yeah.
and then a couple of them on the way up through East Falmouth. But I was surprised the number in the top 20 that were from Falmouth.
Right. Yeah,
The other question I had is that red light that's up, kind of blinking, what do you think about that? Does it seem too high?
You know,
It does to me, I don't know.
Generally,
You're the expert, though, I'm just a driver.
So generally, you want to have it so that it is in the sight line of the driver. So you generally want it to be oriented similar to like a traffic signal. And so, over the center of the road is good if it's late at night or something like that, but it may not be in your sight line.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. That's why your signal indications are generally like 14 feet up or something like that, because as you're driving, generally you'll get that in your peripheral view as well, coming into the intersection. So, effective late at night, but again, it should be really looking at when are the crashes happening, and is this an effective device to deal with what's happening at the intersection? And the road safety audit will help with kind of understanding that.
Doing that itself, yeah. You all set, Nick? You good? So we'll let you continue?
Sure, thank you. So now focusing on the elements of the site plan. As I said, overall, with respect to the site plan itself, it's laid out very well. The dimensions as it relates to parking spaces, widths of drive aisles, and things like that within the site are what we'd expect to see for kind of a fast food, kind of a high volume, high turnover type of use that's in there. Because again, one-way traffic circulation, you can process large number of vehicles in a, as you know, a confined amount of space. So we think the site plan as it relates to circulation lays out well. So there's a few things that we asked the applicant to provide, some of which may have been in the application materials. They just weren't in the site plan set that was provided to us. So of course, we need to make sure that a fire truck can circulate within the site. And then I think importantly as well is the delivery truck. So whatever the largest size truck is that would be coming to the site. It's typically a tractor trailer. So we want to see that circulation. Making sure that we understand that it can maneuver within the site without going through parking spaces, I think is probably the more important thing. And then as the vehicle's staged on the site to offload product into the store, we want to make sure it's out of the way and it's not obstructing the flow within the site. Because you can have the best circulation pattern in the world, and then the delivery truck shows up and blocks that, and then we have an issue within the site. Or the delivery truck's there, it's blocking circulation, and then the fire truck needs to get in and it causes an issue. So we want to see how those vehicles maneuver within the site, but also where the delivery vehicle is going to be staged to make sure that that clear path is still provided for the fire truck. As I said, this might have been provided as a part of the initial materials, but the site plan set we had did not include that, so we want to see that that all works. And then the same thing as it relates to where trash is going to be within the site, making sure that the trash truck can get to where the dumpster is, and then maneuver as well in the site itself. What I would just say on it, because sometimes, and I haven't seen the applicant's response yet, just because a fire truck can maneuver in the site, it doesn't mean those other vehicles can, because the fire truck turns very tightly. They're specifically designed to maneuver in tight areas. So when you look at the turning radius, unlike our cars, we can only turn the wheels so much, they can actually turn those wheels much more to pivot those axles so that they can maneuver in tight spaces. So just because a fire truck can get in there doesn't mean a tractor trailer can, or that a single unit truck or a trash truck can. So that's why we ask that all of those turning analyses be provided, also because they're going to different places. The fire truck just needs to get around the building to make sure that it can fight a fire or respond to an emergency. But those other vehicles have to get to specific areas and complete specific maneuvers, so we want to make sure those vehicles can get in, circulate, and get to where they need to within the site. So we've asked that that be provided.
One thing that did bother me about the dumpster areas is a crosswalk, like attached right to the dumpster area. I didn't know how safe that is.
So the intent of that is for the employees to get to the dumpster. So that's why it's there. There's a lot of times you'll see they don't provide the crosswalk, and it's often asked, well, how do the employees get to the dumpster?
So it should be striped and.
It can be, and that's really what it's doing, is just saying this is how the employees get to where the dumpster is. So it's not really for the patrons, it's really just for the employees. Focusing on the drive-through area, as I said, they have a bypass lane, which is important for the site circulation within the site. As the drive-through lane comes out into where the two-way area is heading toward Worcester Court, we've asked that they provide, stop line, do not enter signs, and stop signs at that location. We want that traffic stopping because if you're entering the site, we want you to be able to enter. We don't want you stopped out onto Worcester Court. So we want to control that movement so that entering movements and exiting movements can all happen at that location, and they're kind of at a higher level to people exiting the drive-through. So that's why we've asked that the signs and markings be put there. The other reason for that is that it's one way. And so by having a stop line and two stop signs with do not enter signs on the backside, anyone coming in knows they can't go up that way. It's very apparent from the signs and the pavement markings. So we've asked that that be added to the site plan. Site distances at the driveways. So the applicant did provide a site distance plan for the driveways. We've asked that they make some adjustments to the plan, and I know I saw in when I briefly looked at the responses, I believe what was stated was that these are what's required by the town in terms of the dimensions, which I understand, don't have an issue with that. The difference between what the town requires and what the standard is less than, it's probably a few inches. So it's not going to make a significant difference as it relates to the sight lines that are provided, but we think that we just want to make sure that because they're referencing the standards, which are based on federal highway guidelines, the measurements should also be based on federal highway guidelines, and it's not going to make a significant difference in terms of what you see on the plan here. We do agree that the sight line should be sufficient based on the measured speed of traffic on the roadway, but we did ask that as they're updating the plan that's here, there are specific notes that we want added to the site plan. And this really goes to, the site triangles are great to demonstrate that the site distances are provided, but I think as you're looking at signs and landscaping as a part of the project, the important thing about this is that those site triangles that are shown, that nothing is placed in those areas that restrict sight lines. We've asked that they, keep the plan, make some slight adjustments, but then add a specific note that talks about, signs, landscaping, and other features within the site triangle areas shall be designed, installed, and maintained so as not to exceed 2 feet in height. The driver's eye height is assumed to be 3.5 feet. If you're sitting in your car, you're assumed that your eyes are roughly 3.5 feet above the pavement surface. So we establish that no objects should be placed in the hatched area they've shown that are more than 2 feet in height. So that gives us a foot for snow, is really what we're looking at. So if snow or anything else is out there, it gives us a foot of buffer that you could still see in that case, in case you planted a shrub or put a sign in there. This is an area that's not going to be plowed, it's not going to be sanded or salted, so that to the extent that we have winter again, where we're getting large amounts of snow, we want to make sure that there's some freeboard in there in terms of being able to accumulate snow in the area. So that specific note deals with that. It's also important because to the extent that the board approves the plan, we want this as an exhibit, because if the zoning enforcement officer has to go out there because there's an issue with respect to sight lines, the plan is very apparent. You can take this out to the field and say, okay, well, here's the site triangle, and that's in here, and this is what the note says, so it needs to be modified. So it makes it easier to do enforcement as well. We did ask that the applicant review the width of Worcester Court. The driveway, as we've looked at it, is wide. Typically, it would be somewhere around 24 feet if we just have entering and exiting traffic for a use that's generating this level of activity. We do understand that we need to see that turning analysis, because the turning analysis may be telling us or demonstrating why the driveway needs to be this wide. The reason for the comment in terms of narrowing the width is, again, we have a high crash intersection. And so if we have a wider driveway, then what that is doing is it's increasing the conflict area in front of the driveway, because it's a wide driveway, so vehicles can use that full width of the driveway. So we want to make sure it's not any wider than it needs to be, because we want to control where the conflict points are happening out on Worcester Court. It's also important because obviously a wider driveway means it takes longer for a pedestrian to cross that driveway, so the pedestrian is exposed to traffic for a longer distance or a longer period of time. So we've asked them to review it and consider reducing the width of the driveway. The vehicle turning analysis may inform us as to why the driveway is as wide as it is, but we may be able to work with the applicant to come up with some design features for the driveway to narrow it as much as possible, but we've asked for them to look at that. I already talked about that sidewalk connection. We've asked the applicant to look at that, as I said, to try to direct pedestrians up toward the intersection. And then our last comment deals with the new driveway that's coming out onto Spring Bars Road. I think as the board has looked at that driveway, it is steep as it relates to coming into the site or going out of the site. Typically, again, thinking back to like the conditions we've had the past few nights, we get icing, we get snow, and what we'd like to have is a leveling area at the end of the driveway. So generally, we like the ability for the vehicle to come down and then be able to control itself before it gets out to the roadway. So we generally like to see an area that doesn't exceed 2%. And generally within at least a vehicle length of the street, because again, it gives some control as to if you're sliding or whatever and you're coming down the driveway, you've got a level area to try to recover before you get to where that stop line is. So we've asked them to look at the slope of that driveway and see if there's the ability to be able to create a leveling area before they come out to Springs Bar Road.
That doesn't appear that it's achievable.
We've asked them to look at it. They could also look at doing different transitions, so there's a way you can break up the grade of the driveway to have it be a gradual slope down. So again, we've asked them to look at it, but part of what we're doing is the review is to say this is what you should be providing. It doesn't mean that it has to be provided and that there isn't a median ground there, but to the extent that they can provide it, this is what's desirable.
Yeah. Doesn't it interfere with the design relative to the building
further up the driveway if you were to?
Graduate it the way you described?
That's something they need to look at, because they can also come back and talk about the way they're going to maintain that driveway. So it may be something, it may be something that they come back and say, this is the best, this is what we can achieve. DPW says they don't have an issue with it. We're going to have a, a
I
maintenance
don't think
plan.
that's, I think engineering, and I don't know, I didn't get it, some of this stuff only, again, came in recently, but I can't be sure, but I thought engineering still had an issue with the transition and the drain that they proposed.
So, yeah, so the onus really back on them. We've kind of given you what the standards are, and then it's sort of like for them to go back and try to figure out what's the engineering solution to this. And if there's not an engineering solution to it, is there an alternative? And sometimes what you'll see is, we can't achieve this grade, and so here's our maintenance plan. Here's.
There's also, when you're talking about instances where there's going to be ice on the road, you're also talking about people on the sidewalk. I mean, it's not just slipping and sliding into the road isn't the only issue here. It's pedestrian safety.
Right, and, as we're looking at this and that driveway in
And when
particular.
the snow's banked up,
Right.
it's even going to be more of an issue.
Yeah. This is a new creation of a driveway. So this driveway, the Worcester Court driveway exists onto the property.
Yeah.
This is brand new and being added, and like you're saying, there's topography issues that are dictating kind of the design of it as it relates to setting the building. It's got to be a level pad for the building, and then everything kind of builds from that once you've got the building set out. So, and they need to connect up to the streets. So they've wanting to add a driveway that comes out to that street, given the grade in the site, and so that's creating some challenges. And so we're asking them to, look at those challenges and see if there's an engineering solution to develop feasible or maintenance activities or things like that they can put forth if they can't achieve a leveling area.
What if they can't find an alternative or achieve that? I mean, that's a tremendously high grade there. What if they can't? Do we say?
See how they
Do we, I know. Do we say, well, you can't have that egress area? If they can't have that egress area, then is there an alternative? Do we have to have two egress areas? Do we have to widen the other egress area? We have to understand where we go with this if
Right.
they don't come up with a solution.
So I think they need to look at it, and they've got to come back, and they need to exhaust that and then come back with a solution and present it to us, because, back to, there's a point where, as you're saying, could you drop the whole site and level it? Well, that's cost prohibitive. Is there some median ground here where you can make up the grades within the site? I don't know. The site engineer needs to look at it. What we're trying to say to them is that, the driveway as designed creates this issue, and, engineering and public works may have brought up some issues as well. So we're asking them to go back and see, is there a solution to this? If they come back and say there's no solution, then we'll need to provide an opinion to you as to how we think the site would function with whatever the alternative is, but we
I
haven't.
will hear back from you when they come up.
You absolutely will,
This
yes.
isn't the last we're going to be seeing you,
Yeah.
Right.
because there's 80 bedrooms next door.
I think that's the number anyway.
40 units, yeah.
So that's it in terms of our comments. As I said, I know things have been trickling in, so we're going to go through the applicant's responses to our comments, and then we'll report back to you as to how they've worked to address what we've presented to them.
Did you feel the queuing line was okay?
Yes, there's a sufficient queuing to do that. I think that as we look at the one-way circulation and the fact that they have a bypass, they've got plenty of room to be able to stack within the project site. To the extent that there's any extended queuing, it blocks some of the spaces that would be in front of the building. That would be an extreme situation if it got back that far. But I think importantly, as we're looking at it, it would never get back to a point, there would have to be a complete catastrophe within the site for it to get to the point where it interferes with the public way, and I think that's the important thing. But even to the extent that happened, the other thing is, can a fire truck get in? Because I think that's the most important, because that catastrophe probably means there needs to be a response. And because of the way the one-way circulation and everything works, that response can still happen. And I think that's important.
Now, the ordering is going to be done at the box that's just north of Center on the back side of the building, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, that only leaves you, it starts stacking up there, that's only 4 cars before you start blocking the parking spaces and,
I think it says 8 total.
From the-
yeah, I think that's from the other
From the
side,
pickup
though.
window.
That's
Yeah.
from the pickup window. But you gotta order before you can pick up. Anyway.
Any other questions up here? Got another one?
That's a good report.
Thank you.
Looking forward to
Yeah.
the responses.
One quick question for Mr. Dirk. Would you consider that it would be practical as a condition to limit hours for delivery or trash pickup, given that the size of those vehicles could be impeded by parked vehicles?
Yes, I think it's important to do that, and the reason that I suggest that is that the interaction between those type of vehicles and customers in there, you don't want to have that interaction, so it's either off-peak hours or when the restaurants are closed. Deliveries, I think, are, if there's a tractor-trailer in there offloading product in there, I think that I even think from the operator's perspective, they don't want to have that happen during peak time periods, but I typically, it's a condition.
Thank you.
You guys are all set up here? Does any from the public want to ask the expert in traffic a question? Come on up and ask.
I know there's, sorry,
Try the microphone.
I thank you. It's interesting for me to hear all this. This is not my space. It's fascinating to learn this
It is.
entire scenario.
Just need your name.
Name and address.
Thank you for the reminder. Ben Garvin, 109 Worcester Court. I wonder, based on what you generated your report on, it's my understanding there's a request for a variance based on how far the paving goes in the parking lot, whether it be 5 feet from the line or 5 feet plus. I think the plan is to pave up to 2 feet to the line. Is it done based on the assumption that the variance is there, or is it done before the variance?
I'm sorry. So I mean, I defer to the applicant on it, but I think the plan that they're showing is what they're requesting approval for, so therefore I would assume it includes if the variance being granted.
That's kind of the cart before the horse, right? All right, thank you. Thanks.
Thanks. Anybody else? Come on up.
Linda Clark, Falmouth Housing Corporation. I am a direct abutter of the property at 41 Spring Bars Road. We have 40 affordable units. My question is, have you considered the exit coming out of 41 Spring Bars Road? Entrance and exit. Have you looked at the impact or crashes or potential safety issues?
So I did look at the relationship between the spacing between the driveways, and the spacing between the driveways is such that there shouldn't be an interaction directly between vehicles entering or exiting the driveways, that there's distance between them enough so that people can see each other, essentially, is our important thing. I think I would be more concerned or would have a heightened level of sensitivity if there's a restriction that requires the vehicles exiting that driveway to turn right. So if that's something that's being proposed, then I would need to look at that because of the fact that it's going to send more traffic in that direction than what they've estimated in the traffic study. So we would need to then consider it, and then I would look at it as it relates to the interaction with that driveway.
Well, that is what the proposal is.
So I need to, hopefully the applicant's going to put that in writing, but I'm going to, because I've heard that tonight, that will be a part of, if it's not in the materials I have, then that's going to be the question. They're going to have to submit revised materials to
Because
me.
he told us the first time, so I don't understand why it wasn't. Oh, doesn't matter.
I have another question. Not actually a question, I guess it's a comment. So I visit the property frequently, 3 to 4 or 5 times a week. Pulling out of 41 Spring Bars Road, I look right, I look left, I look right, and then I attempt to go, and somebody's coming through the intersection very fast in order to get through the intersection so they don't get hit. So all of a sudden, there's a car that's going to hit me. Well, that exit for Wendy's is even further up. So they're going to have a great deal of difficulty. It's the same kind of scenario, right? And as far as crashes are concerned, I don't know we did some research internally in my office. So 51 accidents occurred there, and this is reported accidents in the last 9 years at the intersection. I think that's pretty substantial.
It's a high crash.
Yes.
A lot of them don't get reported either.
That's correct.
Smaller.
That's reported.
Yeah.
You're right, Mark. So I'm really concerned about 32 vehicles that come and go from our complex. We have a bus stop right there with 21 school-age children within the complex. So you have vehicles exiting, you have our tenants exiting, entering, and then you have cars coming at high rates of speed. I think it's a scenario for a disaster, is what I think. It's my opinion, and as I said, I was on site 5 years ago during construction, every day, sometimes twice a day, and that's all you can do is hear this. I don't know how many almost crashes happen there, but you'd hear the tires screeching, and then you're just like, I hope it doesn't happen.
It's kind of an interesting dynamic. The cars coming from Cappy's down Spring Bars Road. You know, and then there's one on Spring Bars Road. They kind of face off to one another, and they decide who's going to go, and then it's like dragsters off the line.
It is.
And it accelerates down the hill, so what you're saying is completely true, and I'm also worried about the sidewalk there.
The sidewalk.
Yeah.
My experience is when I do visit the property, I am located my corporate office on 704 Main Street. So this is what I do. I go down Falmouth Heights Road, I go down Elmer Road, I go down Worcester Court,
Then take a-
and I know I can take a right. Because if I come down Davis Straits and hit the intersection, Spring Bars Road, I don't want to go through that intersection. I just don't. It's dangerous. And a large impact of vehicles is going to be more dangerous, and the cars come so fast down Worcester Court, and when they're trying to get across Worcester Court, they gun it, so, because you got cars coming like this on Worcester Court, and they're coming really fast down Spring Bars Road. I've almost gotten hit, I can't even tell you how many times, dozens in the last 5 years. So I think it's pretty
Madam
dangerous.
Chair, I have a question about that, may I ask?
Oh, good, not me.
The town has been reticent through the years to put in speed calming bumps. One of the reasons, no, I know, but it's done, and there are a lot of new ones out there, too. My question is, the only way that I'm aware, and obviously I'm not an expert, is that the town, or they pay to put in speed calming bumps, or whatever they're currently called, on both roads, so that cars have no choice. The town gets upset or concerned that ambulances, fire trucks can't, they'll bounce over these things, and I understand that. Is that a potential alternative to calming down speeding on those two roads?
So the issue as it relates to putting vertical features in the roadway itself is that when they can be designed properly so that those conditions with slowing down vehicles or such can be mitigated so that it doesn't do that. They're used in a lot of places with that. Because of the volume of traffic on these roadways, it's typically not recommended that those devices be used because we're trying to slow the traffic down, but it starts to create a couple of issues that are unintended. The first is because I've actually had to do a study where we've had to have them removed. And what ends up happening is it creates so much noise as these vehicles are going over them that, especially in residential areas, it's 24 hours a day as vehicles, especially trucks, are going over these, that it creates noise. And so generally, for that reason, because of the volume of traffic, when you have a lot of volume of traffic, you don't put them in because it does slow it down, but it also slows it down to the extent that it affects the operations and safety. So even Mass DOT doesn't typically recommend that on these kind of roadways that you put them in.
So the only solution would be a stoplight?
It doesn't necessarily have to be a stoplight, but you could look at you can bump the curb lines out to narrow up some of the approaches, but still maintain the ability of vehicles to be able to turn at the intersection. You can do certain things to make the roadway appear to be narrower than it actually is, so you don't,
But let me ask that, all right, so on that point, the town has made an effort in places where we have these issues where they paint white lines versus putting physical curbing and things like that. Nobody pays attention to it, and they won't pay attention to that there either. So would the potential recommendation with regard to what you were just talking about, narrowing it down, be a physical narrowing area versus a painted, because no one pays attention to the painted?
so as I look at the intersection itself, because of the crashes that are happening, because of the speed that's happening, and because we have crosswalks that are there, generally, those are one of the things you do, because by bumping out the curb lines, you achieve both narrowing, as it appears to the motorist going through the intersection, but also for the pedestrian, it puts them in a more prominent location so you can see them, but also the distance, crossing distance is much shorter. So we achieve a couple of things as it relates to safety. It also puts the ability to put those signs right in front of your face, because now we push the curb lines out a little bit. So you typically would look at doing something like that. And again, speed reduction is generally about putting things, narrowing the road rather than putting vertical features based on, again, the volume.
I think what I'm hearing is that the most practical solution to the speed side of this, the speed issues, is narrowing those areas as you just described in a physical manner versus a painted, something painted on the road.
That would at least deal with the vehicles speeding up from stop signs and such at the intersection there, would slow that down. If you've got an approach that doesn't have a stop sign on it, then it's not going to be as effective.
Oh, you would do all of that, though?
You would do all of it. You'd include the radar speed signs they have. So you'd try to create a series of things that, as I said, if you get 3 to 5 miles an hour by the speeds, reduct the speed, radar speed feedback signs, then you put the curb line bump outs, and that achieves, let's say, a couple miles an hour. All of a sudden, we're talking, 5+ mile an hour reduction in speed from each of these measures. So there's a series of things that can be done to, chip away at that speed.
Would you be making that recommendation, or are we waiting for them to make? So what I'm waiting on is for them to review the road safety audit and come back with their recommendations. If what comes back is not something that I think addresses what the need is, and I don't want to create a situation where it's also disproportionate to the impact of the project, but it needs to be a safe intersection, so I'm going to balance those two. Let me just stop you. Disproportionate to the magnitude of the project, the only thing that we care about is road safety.
Yeah, so I guess it's not a good way to say it. What I would suggest is there are things that definitely would be warranted and justified as a part of the project. Now, if we were to suggest something like, full, complete signalization in the intersection, I may identify that that's something that could be done. If that's a $500,000 or whatever ticket item, then I may look at it and say, well, you should physically build these improvements because they can be done immediately and have a significant benefit. And then this is what you should do toward achieving kind of a longer-term improvement there. But I need to wait to see what the applicant comes back with.
In the end, why should we care what it costs them?
Right.
And I'm just a hypothetical
Yeah,
question.
that's not going to enter into my calculus in terms of the recommendation, and I'm going to present it to you. And so when I go through it and see what they present, that's how I'm going to look at it. But it's not, when we're talking about safety, and this gets to your point, it's not about how much it costs. It's like, what needs to be done to fix the intersection? Okay. Deciding who pays for what is,
It's a different
something
matter.
else. It's a different matter. But we can certainly make sure that there's identified measures to deal with these issues, deal with what's happening for the speeding towards your driveway, and deal with what's happening at the intersection. Because they're so close together and related to each other, it should be able to all be taken care of with the same level of improvement.
Thank you.
Was that traffic study done prior to Aldi's opening?
Actually, I think Aldi's was one of the projects that it might have been, because I think they added traffic from Aldi's into their traffic counts. Yes, it was. So the traffic counts were done prior to that, because as they did their traffic counts in August of '24, in order to have it be equivalent to 2025, they adjusted the volumes upward, and then they added traffic from 2 projects. One of them was Aldi's.
Is that actual numbers or something they took out of a book?
It was what was in the traffic study for that project. So it's not actual counts.
So it's not actual?
It's not actual.
Yeah, well, theoretical, yeah, well.
Can I ask another safety question? Her project, I think she said 21 school kids. Now, they're going to come up Spring Bars. I know my kids would take the first driveway, because that's what kids do. They go the fastest route to get to food. And I find that pretty dangerous, with big trucks coming out of there, and I don't know if you looked at the safety part of that?
So
Walking people
across the driveway.
on that Spring Bars exit.
So what we've said is that the driveway, again, we want to see this grade flat because of the fact that the driveway is there. Now, the crossing of that driveway, I think similar to the Worcester Court driveway, we generally would like to see, because it's a new driveway, if they can, is the sidewalk should be flush across the driveway rather than you have to ramp down and up. So what that does is it emphasizes the pedestrians rather than the vehicles there. What's important as it relates to if pedestrians are going to go in that way, then looking at a pedestrian connection, I think the only concern I would have if pedestrians go in that way, and if they're going to go in that way, it should be factored into the design. But as you look at the site plan, they need to cross the drive-through window and the queuing lane to get in there if they use that. So I think if that's something that's going to be, an entrance that's going to be used by pedestrians, then we'd need to think about the design. That would get to something where vertical traffic calming as it relates to internal to the site is appropriate. So then if that's something that's desirable and wants to be brought into the site plan, we probably would recommend something that's going to emphasize that crossing date across the drive-through, because we don't want cars sitting on top of where the crosswalk would be to get there.
I mean, this is kind of calling for them to go down to the intersection for the kids, which is even worse, pretty much.
Shortest distance between 2 points.
They're going to go that driveway.
Cutting across somebody's lawn.
And so if that's something that needs to be put in the plan, that goes back to the grade, because it needs to be an ADA compliant sidewalk, and if the grade of the sidewalk, they could come up with a different kind of sidewalk, but generally it's adjacent to the driveway, so the slope, and if it's adjacent to the driveway slope is controlling the sidewalk grade.
Where exactly is this drain going to be located?
That I don't know, site engineer, I don't know.
Going to be in the sidewalk itself?
I don't know that it,
Well, they're proposing.
it looks like it's, again, looking at it, the trench drain is in the property, so it's before the sidewalk. So it's catching the drainage before it
I'd be
flows.
concerned walking across that with my high heels.
So we can ask, as a part of our follow-up, we can ask the applicant to look at that, because it is related to the driveway grade as well. It's another dynamic that would look at, that grade, because they would need to do some kind of a switchback type of ramp to get up.
Linda, are you all set?
I have two more quick things.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for this because I was under the assumption this hearing was going to be continued because
is.
the planning was continued.
It is.
We're not going to vote tonight.
Right. RTA, are we positive the RTA goes down Spring Bars Road?
Don't know.
I've never seen that bus on that road. They go down the Falmouth Mall.
Mall, yeah.
They don't go down that
driveway of
road.
the mall.
I've never seen them go down that road.
That's one of the things we've asked them to review.
Okay, I'm just saying, I heard you speak of the RTA.
Correct.
They don't go down that road. They
And
don't
one
go
of the
down
things
Worcester
that
Court
the
either.
applicant has
He wrote right in
to,
Okay.
the applicant has to, one of the standards is that they identify transportation alternatives,
Uh-huh.
and not just identify it, but that's part of the standard under 13.1, section 13.1. It's paragraph 3 of 13.1E. So they have to get into what it's called transportation alternatives. So they have to explain that to us, and we're going to go, I'm going to try and go.
All right, I was just a little confused about the conversation. I thought it was, they had stated the RTA does go down Spring Bars.
Yeah, but that's what they're going to have to tell us is going to happen.
Okay. The next thing I have a question on, so as far as I can see on the site plan, the exit and entrance on the Worcester Court side, is that or is that not directly across from the Cappy's Aldi Falmouth Plaza?
It's very close, but not exact.
Yeah, it does line up, it's offset a little bit, but it does slightly line up with the driveway across the street, but then I think that other driveway might be a little bit south of there. But it's sort of like, not much, right?
Thanks. Anybody else have any questions? You okay? Everybody's good up here?
Yeah, good draft.
Hey,
Mr. Ahmed? Thank you.
no, he's got somebody in the back.
Wait, time out, we have one more, sorry. Then we'll let the attorney respond.
More just a comment on the intersection.
You gotta
Scott
introduce
Clement,
yourself.
And I'm a Director Butter, 179 Worcester Court. Sounds good on paper and in theory of narrowing that intersection to try to slow traffic down. Not possible. The amount of commercial vehicles going through that intersection, all different directions, along with, obviously, with general public driving through. There's no possible way you could narrow that up any, because anytime, 3 times a day, 18-wheelers taking a right, taking a left, going over the curb. It's too narrow as it is. So in theory, that's not going to work. I mean, it sounds like it's going to work, but it's definitely not.
A lot of the accidents are cars coming up Spring Bars Road, cars turning down on.
Exactly.
And they contacted the side of the vehicle.
There's 18-wheelers will come up Spring Bars Road to take a right to go into the back of Cappy's. They're constantly, I mean, they're driving not just on the curb a little bit, they're on the curb by,
And the stop lines are behind the crosswalk.
Yep.
And people stop at the stop line.
Exactly.
And then they go up into the crosswalk, which really puts them in the road. It's a
car delivery vehicles coming out of O'Hara Motors, which is diagonal from this property. They'll pull out and they'll go to take a right to, onto Worcester Court to go out to the Stop and Shop lights. They're constantly driving on the front lawn and over the curb at the bank. So narrowing that intersection is definitely not going to work, to be honest with you. The other question I had is the number of parking spots you're proposing. What is that based on? How many for the
I don't think
applicant?
it fit.
I think it's 39.
They're meeting at 2.
If I recall, at the last hearing there was 1 spot per seat in the restaurant. If that's correct, what about the extra parking for employees? How many employees are going to be there at any time?
That's all kind of for the applicant. We can ask the applicant all those questions.
Okay,
I have some of those myself.
okay, thank you.
Thanks. Come on up, attorney.
Thanks. For your record, I'm Bob Ament, attorney in Falmouth, and represent the applicant. Raul Lizardi Rivera from Cape and Islands Engineering is here, as well as Randy Hart from DHP, who wrote the applicant's traffic report. I think it'd be helpful if I just pull up, if I can figure out how to do it quickly. I won't. The plan. So I want to just provide some information that's helpful to the discussion that we've just had. And it has to do with some changes in the plan, which are reflected on the plan that was filed in preparation for this hearing the end of last month. So the original traffic report did not the additional plans did not provide for a right turn only. And so when Randy Hart did his work, his plans don't show right turn only, his analysis out of the exit only. And we changed that to propose exit only in response to the engineering department's concern about visibility, about sight distance for left-hand turns out of that driveway looking towards Worcester Court. We did that because it was something we were willing to do, even though we didn't agree with that was a problem, and we'd also prefer to have a two-way exit because it's a better site by doing so. Well, the engineering department, oh, and by the way, we also did it in part because the credit union across the street sort of latched on that concern and said the engineering department thinks there isn't enough site visibility. We don't want to create a problem. Well, the engineering department no longer believes that's a problem because they were calculating speeds going through that intersection without taking into account that there's stop signs there and that there are cars turning into it. So the latest engineering reports do not identify that as a problem. They are comfortable with the site distance, and so is Mr. Dirk. So our plan that was submitted last month, the plan that's now before you, does not restrict the traffic to right turns only. The only restriction is that the delivery vehicles and the trash truck, those are required to turn left. We don't want those trucks turning right towards the residential areas in Mara Vista. So that's a real important issue. There was quite a bit of discussion about that, and so Mr. Dirk's further analysis will no doubt take that into account. The applicant has submitted the turning movement diagrams for the largest delivery truck, WB 62, I think it is, as well as box trucks, as well as the fire engines. And those are all filed. They're included also in the response to Mr. Dirk's comments to his review that we've just completed. Mr. Dirk's report was received by us late on December 29. There was a holiday in between. There's actually a lot of requests that were made. We really appreciate the work he's done. I thought his presentation tonight was terrific. And we have prepared responses. I gave a copy of it to Noreen late this afternoon, and I know that Mr. Dirk has received a copy of it. Those include the truck movement diagrams. So,
Did that include the trash truck one, too?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Let me just make sure about that, because there are three different
Because
plans.
that was the one he was questioning, too.
We have the fire truck, we have...
Box truck, delivery truck.
The delivery
dumpster.
truck is the biggest.
Yeah.
I'm going to get an expert on that.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
do it.
Let the expert talk.
For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape Analysis Engineering, the engineer for the applicant. So yes, we have those three movements. The single unit 40 will be the vehicle turning movements that represent some delivery trucks, but also the dumpster truck.
Dumpster truck, okay. Thank you.
Also, the plan does show, of course, the required 14-foot wide, 45-foot long parking space that's just for delivery trucks. And actually, the way the site is designed, it could be considerably longer than that, because there's no parking next to it heading towards the curb cut onto Spring Bars Road. The width of the curb cuts is raised as an issue. The existing curb cut on Worcester Court is the same width or a little wider than what we're proposing there, of course, but there's no activity going on the property. But the width of that is required because of the delivery trucks turning into the site from Worcester Court. And the width of the exit driveway on Spring Bars Road is required for the left turn of the delivery trucks. The plans have also been revised since you saw them previously with respect to the slope of the exit curb cut. And I think it's fair to say that the engineering report, and you received the latest engineering department's report only yesterday in the afternoon. There is only one issue that they have with the plan that remains, and they are now satisfied with that curb cut, except for the drainage issue of the proposed French drain that Cape and Islands has recommended be used to receive runoff from an area that I think is about 330 square feet. Is that about right? That's the only area that isn't already has drainage going into, but the slopes make it very difficult to control that little bit of water in that little area. And Cape and Islands feels that the best solution of that is a French drain specifically for that very small area. The operations and maintenance plan that we have provided would provide for annual inspection of that, cleaning of it as necessary, and we think it works. Well, we don't know what the solution is.
Before you go on that, because
Sure.
I watched you talk about this at the planning board, this lateral drain that goes across, and no one seems to like engineering, this is all within the property, not in the public way.
That's
So-
correct.
So why would there be an issue putting that in? Seems to be that everybody doesn't like this,
Well, the engineering department doesn't like it.
but it's not on the public way.
They don't think it's going to collect
So
properly.
the issue is, they don't believe it's going to collect enough.
Apparently. So we don't know what the solution would be for that.
To extend it left and right,
Sorry, I don't understand that. In any way, I'm not the,
extending the drain, if they think that the water's going to go beyond it, making it larger, left and right, wouldn't that be
well, what,
a potential?
probably Raul should explain it, but in any case,
Let me just finish what I was going to say. I'm sorry, I apologize for interrupting, because this is an issue with the planning board, I think. It's an issue with our town engineer. I'm going to listen to what our town professionals say
Sure.
about this, because I'm not a professional in this area. Will your engineer respond to that at some point in time, the concerns about that? See, it's on the public property, and I don't know why there's a real problem with that.
well, we
Well, they don't want
have
the water
responded
going
to
onto
it.
the
We
right
don't.
of way.
Oh, I know, but I want them to just say all of this and to do something about it. That's all I'm asking.
Well, the town planner has, just this morning, asked to try to set up a meeting with Raul and myself, with the town engineers for next week, just to talk about this. How do we deal with that issue? And perhaps there are other issues we can talk about at that time as well. As I said, I think that the responses that we've made to the engineering department's concerns have satisfied the engineering department. And this is the only item that they're describing as open. And we've asked, well, is the solution that you think it's such a small area that we don't need to provide a way to catch the drainage coming off of it? If that's what they say, well, that's okay with us, but we need to come up with a solution. We're dealing with a piece of property that between the level part of it and the street at that corner is a drop of 4 feet. And it creates a lot of issues, including how do you create a handicap accessible sidewalk that people are going to use as opposed to one that's going back and forth? And how do you have a driveway out that isn't too steep? And how do you deal with the drainage and so on? And we're dealing with a lot that presently has no drainage control and is creating or has created a problem. So we think what we're doing is a great, great improvement. And we're down to talking about how to deal with 330 square feet of area that we're having a difficulty figuring out how to have the driveway go at the right pitch and have the water go to the right place. So we're trying to come up with a solution to that.
Could you speak to, I see that there was a recommendation to have sidewalks extended across the frontage of the commercial property.
Well, the response to that has been that there is a sidewalk on the other side of the street. There is no sidewalk except that short distance from the intersection on the east side of the street. And we don't think that extending the driveway to a point where it doesn't serve anything and encourages people to walk along it, and then it ends, and there's a lot of driveways because they're commercial properties along the east side of Worcester Court, having people across the street there. We don't want that. We want people to cross at the intersection. And so we don't think that extending the sidewalk is a good idea. We want to have the sidewalk that leads to the restaurant from Worcester Court meet the existing sidewalk? And I guess there's some question about should it be closer to the intersection, although I think it's pretty close now, but that's it.
I just saw it in the report. as
But
you mentioned.
that's the response.
still
We
there.
don't really want to do that. As far as the number of spaces, the plan does show 39 spaces. 36 are required at one per seat. The requirement of one parking space per seat takes into account the fact that every seat isn't taken by a driver, and there's plenty of space for the employees. But I think it's interesting that in Mr. Dirk's responses, his review, he notes that there's adequate parking and that the Institute of Traffic Engineers estimates that the number of parking spaces required for a restaurant like this is between 21 and 29. We have 39 because we need 36 to meet the town's requirements. We don't think there's any shortage of parking. There's probably an excess of parking. Well,
How many employees do you think you're going to have?
I'm going to let eight at a time.
And is there any kind of ride sharing? I did see that in the report, that they're encouraging either ride sharing or bicycles or...
One of Mr. Dirk's suggestions, his recommendations, is that there be a traffic management program, which I think is a logical, appropriate idea for any business to assure people who don't come by car that if they have an emergency and they need to get somewhere, there'll be a car for them, that type of thing. There are incentives for using public transportation, all that kind of thing. We can put that together.
All right. I like that you had addressed some of the open items from our last meeting and extending the fence and your odor mitigation and things like that, so
Well,
appreciative of that stuff.
we have done a number of changes. I really wanted to start by just providing information that I thought was relevant to the discussion about traffic, and I think I've done that. I, of course, have some other comments, although one overall comment that I think is related to, first, what Mr. Petrucci said. It doesn't matter what it costs. Well,
Actually, he said it's not our concern.
It does matter what it costs. This is
Look.
not this board's concern.
we start with a situation that we have an intersection which is a problem intersection. It's on a list of high crash intersections.
There you go.
51 accidents reported. Presumably any accident is a problem, but a significant accident is highly likely to be reported over a lot of years, but it turns out that's 5 to 6 a year is what that comes out to. And the police department has told Mr. Hart that in the first 10 months of this year, after the signal was installed, the flashing beacon, there's only been one reported accident. We don't know what the last couple of months have been more. And we can propose a bunch of improvements, flashing stop signs, radar signs, other things that Mr. Dirk may suggest, as part of this project, and make it safer. But the thing is, we have a vacant acre lot on a corner in the Business 2 district, in the Mr. Cod zoning district, which encourages commercial development without any limit, along with 20 units per acre of housing if you wanted to go in that direction. And some of the concerns that you have that are very legitimate concerns will apply to any development on the lot, including developments that don't require a special permit and that are by right development, such as Mr. Cod development, such as a convenience store, a retail store, which creates 40% more traffic than the fast food restaurant. And that would be for a store about the same size as the proposed restaurant. But you can have, which is 6%. It's actually 5.8%, because although you don't have the plan, we're thinking of eliminating the cover on the patio. So the lot coverage is 5.8%. 40% is what's allowed. And the site is big enough for enough parking easily for a 20% lot coverage, which would be that convenience store, but another 5,000 square feet of some kind of space. Plus, if you went under Mr. Cod, by right, 20 units, I think it's 20, exactly 20, maybe it's 21, units on second and third floors of a building. And those projects would be by right and wouldn't have a special permit, and the same kind of conditions wouldn't be imposed, couldn't be imposed. It isn't appropriate, it isn't fair to assume there'll be no development of this property. Now, the owner hasn't developed it for decades and decades, but I think she's going to. And so it can't necessarily be the job of this developer to do everything that's necessary to avoid problems with that intersection. They have to do their fair share. They have to do what's reasonable in connection with this project. And Mr. Dirk's conclusion in his report, and I'm not making it up because I have a page of excerpts from his statements that I'm giving you. He says the intersections will operate safely. It isn't reasonable to think there won't be a curb cut 200 feet away from the intersection on this corner lot. The town has a bylaw. It says you can't have an intersection within 20 feet. You can't have a driveway within 20 feet of an intersection. We're 200 feet from the intersection. We're 60 feet away from the driveway for the adjacent apartments. Enough distance that Mr. Dirk says he doesn't see that as a problem. The fact that cars are maybe speeding after stopping at the intersection down Spring Bars Road isn't because of Wendy's. There isn't a Wendy's now. We're talking about cars turning right, seeing the intersection. We're not creating these problems that exist.
But you're adding to them.
Escalating.
But you might.
Yes.
You're adding to them.
But any development is going to add to them, and we're proposing some significant improvements which will make things safer. So that's, I think, what you have to think about. And I certainly hope that you
May I
will.
ask a question while you're speaking? Under 240.13.1E, paragraph 1, it asks, and one of the, it's the standards we're either going to deny or approve this on. It asks the question, how does the project not degrade levels of service? So you talk about what exists today, is creating the problem, in that Wendy's is not adding to that problem, is not currently creating the problem, but it would degrade the level of service. That's the term that the bylaw
Well,
says.
actually, I don't believe I don't think we've degraded any of the turning movements that have been studied. Is that right? I don't think there's any degrading of them. There will be what,
There is a few.
which one?
Just a few movements. The overall intersection levels of service remain the same, but there's a few movements. It's Worcester Court Spring Bars, for instance. There is one movement that does change.
Stand corrected on that. And we can take another look at that. But
That's all I
again,
ask. Yeah, that's all I ask.
the conclusion of the expert engaged by the ZBA is that there will be some increase in traffic, but not a significant amount. And keeping this property undeveloped, isn't the, that's not the solution, because it can't be the solution.
I think the takeaway that I have is the applicant can get very focused on the traffic at that intersection, and I think that hopefully you can come back and propose some modifications that can help us to better understand and limit the exposure to pedestrians and other cars. And that,
Absolutely.
your general statement, I tend to agree with from your highlighted aspects here, but the fundamentals are, traffic seems relatively minor. All of these components of it, that's great, that's good, but you've heard it from the whole panel, and I think that the folks that have come up and spoke, there's a problem at that intersection, so the more you can spend your time on helping to diffuse those issues at that would help us to, or myself potentially, to say yes to the project.
Yeah.
I'm kind of indifferent to the what-if drill, what might happen there. But you're very close, so keep your focus on that intersection
Well,
and how to address it.
If the five of you feel the way that you do, I'm very pleased.
I don't-
Because
I can
we
only speak
will
for
work
myself.
to try to gain your support. I think that the ability for us to talk to Mr. Dirk through our expert and come up with the best set of improvements that we can afford. I don't know if we can do them all. I think we have a great opportunity to try to do it right. And,
That's what we want, a safe project.
Yep.
yeah.
And pursuant to that,
You guys all set up here with the applicant?
no.
Does anybody from
I
the
don't-
public want to question the applicant?
Wait a minute.
Yep, you do have one. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Excuse me.
No, I just don't understand why you don't want to extend that sidewalk down to the Worcester Court entrance. It ends, and you know people are going to be walking on that sidewalk and continue. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, it brings people to a point where the sidewalk ends and they'd be encouraged to cross the street, not at the safer
What if they're going to
intersection.
your place, to Wendy's? That doesn't make any sense.
Oh, there's a walkway from
If you're
the,
coming up here and you're going around the corner, the sidewalk stops right there, doesn't it?
correct, where our sidewalk to the store begins.
Oh, you are going to put, I thought you said
Sure, you
weren't.
probably are looking at an existing conditions plan as
Yeah,
opposed to
oh,
the
I
site plan.
thought you just said you weren't going to. Okay. And before, I just had one question for Linda. Come up here. Okay, all right, there it is, all right. Is there a, because we have this issue with the water coming down the proposed driveway, is there an issue with puddling in front of your driveway to that place, or anywhere between there and this proposed driveway as it exists now?
We have a storm drain at the edge on our property of the driveway.
And
That
does it
was to-
handle,
That was to mitigate stormwater from,
and does it,
it does. But any more water, I don't know. It's a good question, and that's been one of my concerns.
Yeah, that's one of the town's concerns as well.
Because through the process of construction, we had, I think I gave the board some pictures. It looks like a waterfall under construction. The stormwater from that parcel was coming over onto our parcel.
Oh, so you dealt with
I've already
during
spent
construction?
a minimum of $17,000 during construction mitigating stormwater from that parcel. I don't want to do that anymore. If this project is approved, I'm not in a position to manage anybody else's stormwater, especially theirs, again,
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
okay? I do have some other things, if you'd like me to sit down and come back to the podium.
You can ask a few questions of the applicant, is that what you mean?
Okay, Attorney Armitt is focused on having the parcel developed. I don't think anybody's opposed to a 1-acre lot being developed. The use is not appropriate for that location. Nobody is opposed to it. Fast food restaurants are in B1, correct? There's a reason for that. B2 is with special permit. So we do have 40 families. We're talking a loudspeaker. A convenience store is not going to have a loudspeaker, I don't think. You're talking massive amounts of trash, which a dumpster is abutting the Falmouth Housing Corporation property. We're also managing the trash from that site now. It's coming through the fence, and we clean it up daily. I have an on-site maintenance person. I believe the trash trucks are going to be a nuisance to the residents. They're allowed. When are they going to show up? They're going to show up probably before they open, which is early in the morning, right? And then when the trash trucks do this, we know where the trash goes. And that wind over there is pretty heavy. So I do have concerns with that. I have concerns about the delivery trucks that are going to come after hours, as we talk about. You don't want these big vehicles in the parking lot during hours of operation. We're going to have noise, we're going to have refrigeration, we're going to have trucks. It's going to be noisy for the residents of Little Pond Place. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind. Odor, air pollution, litter, waste, stormwater runoff, we just discussed that. As I said, I think it is, it's not a suitable location for a fast food restaurant. One other thing, and I think I missed this, how many vehicles were determined were going to come in and out of the site daily?
Between 120 and 150 in and out of the driveway.
Well, I mean, we've already, like we talked about, it's a pretty dangerous intersection now. So is that what we're looking to do, to compound a bad situation? That's a lot of cars. The light has helped somewhat, but I really don't even want to admit this. I go up and down that road so many times, I've never noticed the light, because I'm too busy paying it attention that I don't want to get hit, so I don't
I
look
didn't
up.
know there was one there either, and then I watched the planning board, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yes,
So
there is
then I
one.
went and looked. That's why I asked if it was too high, because I missed it too.
It was brought to my attention a couple of weeks ago. I go, there is? Because I think it's so busy in that area, you're just
Trying
trying
to
to
stay
pay
alive.
attention. Right, there you go, stay alive.
May I just say something? about
Sure.
this? Part of this section, what's called specific performance standards, this board has to consider to approve or disapprove this. Right in the beginning, if you want to read it in 13.1, it says, "No use shall be permitted which would be offensive because of injurious or obnoxious noise, vibration, smoke, gas, fumes, odors, so forth and so on." One of the questions at the time, when I come back, I'll be asking, how are they not doing that by putting this restaurant there, particularly where the trash bins are, what time the trash truck will pick them up, because I know in some parts of town, the town is allowed 4 o'clock in the morning to pick them up. You have folks living there, you've got kids living there. That's school kids, that's not appropriate. So I will ask at some point in time for them to show why this is not creating a nuisance, because that's part of the standards that we have to consider here. So that won't go unanswered.
Great. You know what? The residents of Little Pond would greatly appreciate that. And myself, as the president and property manager of the complex, it will have a huge impact, both maintenance concerns and most importantly, the tenants. I worry about, I mean, we don't develop and leave town like most affordable housing. We don't do that. We're here. We watch out for our properties. We watch out for abutters notices that come down our way. We look out for, even though we're not, I consider how would I feel if I lived there? That's how I look at it. So you're correct in saying it is going to be a problem, and I don't know what kind of fans in this day and age they have to prevent odor of fried food, French fries. I don't know. That's not my expertise. But I would not believe for 1 minute we're not going to have odors from the fans. They have to be pretty big fan system. And the drive-through, the noise. And then when you got these idling cars, and you got the headlights, and then they got the music going as they're idling, sitting there waiting to place their order. I don't see it for this location. As the president, property manager of Little Pond Place, or as a resident, I am in Precinct 2. I live off of Falmouth Heights Road, and I travel that road, Worcester Court, a lot of times on a personal matter as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead if you want to address anything.
Thank you again. I have prepared a dense 5-page letter that I've given to Noreen. Perhaps she's passed out copies to you, that addresses lighting, addresses noise, odors, trash, and then sections on drainage and traffic.
So we have that.
Yeah.
You have that, and so, wow,
We
you
just got
know,
it. We just got it?
got it yesterday.
Yesterday. Okay.
well, I gave hard copies with colored photographs
Oh, yeah,
to
we just-
Noreen to hand out.
We haven't had a chance to look at it.
Of course
We
not.
require 7 days. 5, I think we agreed on.
Yes, thank you. And I put that together in part because I knew you didn't want to hear me go through it all.
Yeah, no, we'll read it, yeah.
Please read it
Yep.
carefully.
Yep. No problem.
The speculation that the restaurant won't take care of its trash, the speculation that the state-of-the-art filters won't work for housing that's 200 feet away from the vent, the speculation that we can't control the noise from the order box when we can, and would agree to a condition that it can't be heard off the site. There's just lots of speculation going on here that isn't based on fact. Thanks.
Thank you.
Does anybody else, did you want to come up and ask any questions of the applicant? No? Everybody's all set? You want to come up? Come on. Good save.
Excuse me. Hi, Selena Given, 109 Worcester Court. One comment to the board and to your last statement. I think there is a lot to say, that there is simulation involved in a lot of everyone's reports, but reality is a lot different than simulation. And so to speak about what is and what the fans can do and what the trash won't do and what all these things, but reality is a lot different than simulation. And I think that is a lot to be considered. And I feel like there's a lot of sugarcoating going on because these people, as lovely as you are, don't live in this neighborhood or down the street or pass through. And again, to Linda, I'm sorry, Linda's point, there are neighbors very close by. And whether they are considered by the law abutters, they are still neighbors. and they're very close by. And the things that affect them are real, whether they're renters or owners, it is real to them. And to be commercially minded, as this group is, again, it's a simulation, not reality. And so I just would like for everyone to be considerate of that.
Say something to that?
Yes, of course.
I have not read, because we just got it tonight, and I agree with you, it can't be a simulation, it can't be sugar-coated. When we get into those areas, if it's not already addressed in this letter, because I haven't read it, be rest assured, I will ask that, how do you keep the kiosks from trespassing onto other properties? How do you keep the smell, the odors from cooking? Why is it the state of art? Is there an expert that provided that information, or is it just something the manufacturer? We will ask those. I want you to be rest assured.
Great.
I will do my best to ask those questions.
Thank you. I was on 28 the other day, coming down from, heading towards Worcester Court, and there was a truck pulling out of the Falmouth shopping center, the mall, I don't know what you call it, where the Home Goods and the Walmart is. It had a difficult time pulling out, and it had to pull into the post office driveway grass to get out, and that is a rather large driveway. So to think that there's going to be a semi-truck rather pulling out of Spring Bars Road onto, out of the parking lot onto that road without driving onto other people's property is hard to believe, given how narrow, already it's just a 2-lane road.
Yeah.
So I think it's a hard spot to justify a fast food restaurant. There are locations, it's already been said in other conversations in this forum, that they have redone other established buildings into their Wendy's. So are there not already established buildings in Falmouth that they could redo rather than building afresh at that lot? It feels like they're trying to put a lot into, 5 pounds of bolts into a 2-pound bag. And I don't know if without their variances, such as parking lot size or how far they can abut the next property, that they would be able to have the ability to have the space for a fire truck or an ambulance or a garbage truck or a semi-truck with their deliveries at whatever hour of the day that those are necessary. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? We're going to continue this anyway. Do we have a date, Noreen? Guys all set up here,
January
right?
29th.
29th? Do I need a motion? Yeah, I need
Yeah.
a motion.
What was the day? I apologize.
29.
January 29th.
January 29th, okay.
Is that okay with you? 29th is okay?
Okay with us, we just want to be sure you're all able to come.
Yep.
Motion to continue to January 29th? 2026.
We have a motion and a second. Everyone's all set? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Great, thank you all for coming out. Great report. That was a really good traffic report.
It wasn't, Joe?
Yeah. I was like impressed. All right, let's see what I got here. That goes home.
There's always a lot to unpack.
It's a tough one. I'm struggling. Me? That's you or me?
That's me, get out of there.
Okay, no, I got mine right here.
You were stolen from the bank. That's right.
Yeah,
not your
the
bank.
girl saw me putting 4 in my pocket. She goes, "That's okay." And I was like, all right. All right, our next hearing is 51 Thomas Lane. We have an application 085-25, James J. Smith and Loma Cerlins, 51 Thomas Lane, Falmouth, Mass. Apply to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Sections 240-102A and 240-113A4, the Code of Falmouth, to raise and rebuild the existing non-conforming two-family dwelling, increasing lot coverage by structure. And I have, it's in an RC district, flood zone AE12, AE13. Thomas Lane is a private road. Lot size is 11,253. Building heights to the max at 35. Side yards to the max also, I'm pretty sure. The existing with just structure is 19.8, and with structure paving is 34.9. Proposed is 24.4 for structure and 39.6 for everything. We have conservation. The plans need to be just a little tweaked. Water needs an upgrade. No letters. And that's about all I have. I'll let you do it tonight, Kevin. Attorney Clown, excuse me.
Kevin's fine. I've been called a lot worse, probably today. For the record, my name's Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney here in Falmouth, and I'm before you this evening representing Jim Smith and Loma Cerlins, the owners of 51 Thomas Lane. Mr. Smith is here with us this evening, and I'm also joined by Greg Cerunian of Rescom Architecture, who's the architect for this particular project. Jim and Loma are seeking permission to raise and rebuild the existing non-conforming dwelling on this property. So 51 Thomas Lane is located effectively just across from Surf Drive Beach. The Thomas Lane is at the corner of Surf Drive and Shore Road. It's a relatively dense, largely seasonal neighborhood. This particular lot is 11,253 square feet, which is pretty typical for that area. It's a residential C zoning district. It is in the AE12 flood zone, and it is on municipal sewer. So presently, there's a duplex consisting of two two-bedroom dwellings, attached dwellings, which are 4 bedrooms total in the building. There's 2 detached sheds, and the total existing footprint is 2,230 square feet, 19.8% lot coverage. The existing dwelling is non-conforming to front yard setback. It's 18.4 feet where 25 is required, but otherwise conforms to setback and lot coverage requirements. It is also pre-existing non-conforming in that it is a duplex in a residential C zoning district. The RC district only allows for single-family residences. However, this is a legally pre-existing structure because until 1964, this area was zoned as a general residence district, which allows for duplexes by right. This property, this duplex, was built in 1958. And in 1964, at the annual town meeting, this area was rezoned to residential C. A copy of that town meeting vote making that change was included with the application package. As such, the duplex is legally pre-existing non-conforming and is a protected use. So the applicants have owned this property since 2010, been in their family since 1991. But they're looking to make this their full-time residence. The house needs significant repairs, both cosmetically and structurally. And given the scope of the desired renovation, the condition of the premises, and its location in the flood zone, they're effectively required to raise and rebuild in compliance with the flood zone requirements. So they're proposing to raise and rebuild the structure. The applicant's proposal will improve the front yard setback from 14.8 feet to 26, which eliminates the only dimensional nonconformity. The proposal will meet and exceed all other side yard and rear yard setbacks. The lot coverage by structure will increase from 19.8% to 24.4%, which may be allowed by special permit. And the proposal maintains the home as a duplex. It doesn't increase the bedrooms, which remain at 4, which is what's allowed on municipal sewer in this area. Proposed ridge height for this would be 34 feet 8 inches. We are aware of the building department referral requesting a height certification, and we'd be more than agreeable to that as a condition if the board sees fit to approve this. Due to the existing nonconformities, this requires a special permit pursuant to section 240-10.2A. Under that provision, pre-existing nonconforming structures may be changed by special permit, provided they're not substantially more detrimental than what exists. The board is asked to consider the standards of 240-12.1E and whether or not the alteration creates any new dimensional nonconformities, impairs views and vistas relative to the public ways, and reasonably conforms to the neighborhood. In this case, there's no new nonconformities created. The only existing dimensional nonconformity is eliminated. The front yard setback, as I noted, will be improved to greater than 25%. There is no effect of views and vistas on public ways. Thomas Lane is a private way. And it is consistent with the neighborhood, as we'll elaborate on. It does also maintain the use as a duplex, so there's no change to the legally nonconforming use. Under 240.11.3A4, lot coverage by structure above 20% may be allowed by special permit. And again, the board's asked to consider the size and height of the structure in relation to the neighborhood, effects of shadow, impacts on views and vistas to the public ways, and effect of nitrogen on coastal embayments. In this case, there's no impact to the views and vistas from public ways. Again, Thomas Lane being private. Though the building is larger, it is an area with many similar structures, many of which have come into compliance with the flood zone requirements. Some of them have been in velocity zones and are up on piers, such as the property at the corner of Surf and Shore, and a number of the Bywater Court properties. And there's no effect of nitrogen on coastal embayments. It's connected to municipal sewer, and maintaining the same number of bedrooms as at present. As to the size and fit with the neighborhood, we submitted a lot comparison worksheet looking at properties within a 300-foot radius. As proposed, this is only slightly above the average footprint, and while larger than many in the homes in the area in terms of gross floor area, it's not out of character, especially when considering that this is a duplex and coming into compliance with those flood zone standards. It's very similar to a number of homes that have been permitted and constructed within the last few years in this area. The applicant's proposal represents a significant improvement over the existing conditions. The existing dimensional nonconformity will be eliminated, no new dimensional nonconformities. The site is adequate and suitable for the proposal. It's used in the same manner as at present, as a residential duplex. The wastewater is more than managed here, as noted. It's on sewer, and there's no increase in the bedrooms. There's no impact on traffic flow and safety. It remains the same intensity of use as a duplex with two-bedroom units. And there's no impact on views and vistas from public ways, again, being a private lane. The property is serviced by adequate utilities as well. So in short, there's no adverse effects that overbalance the benefits that have been outlined. There's nothing about this proposal that's substantially more detrimental than what exists. And it meets the requirements of 240.10.2A, 240.11.3A4, and 240.12.1E. For these reasons, I would ask that the board grant the special permit, and I would, of course, be glad to address any questions that the board may have at this time.
You want to start off, Mark? Scott's already ready.
He's bouncing, he's ready.
He's always ready. Scotty does his homework. Like I've stated before, I mean, this area of town is already lost, so to speak, if you want to look at it in that respect. And you did max this right out to the absolute.
Inch.
Yeah, 8-foot, 6-inch ceiling heights to get you all the way up. That chimney chase, that's considered an architectural detail.
Yeah, chimneys aren't included in the height calculations.
Yeah, I know.
I do want to note, because that's the second time that's come up, there's actually a 33-foot setback on the left-hand side, which I guess would be the southerly side. So, I think it's been noted that we're maxing it out to all the setbacks, and that's not entirely true. It's being moved pretty considerably to the north here. So there'll be a pretty substantial setback on that side as well.
Yeah, well, I would just, height-wise, of course, everybody wants to, and, it's all yours.
Thank you. Do you mind pulling up to, either the front elevation or rear elevation? Kind of to Mark's point, it's big and bulky. We'll need the as-built on the foundation and on the height.
Yeah, I would fully expect that there'd be a height certification and an as-built as to lot coverage.
Yeah.
So no issue with either of those as a requirement.
No, I don't have any other comments. But thank you.
Is it considered 4 stories?
No, I actually met with the building commissioner on this, because I think his initial
Those
referral,
people standing on the 4th floor.
that's a roof deck. There's a small roof deck up on the ceiling, roof here. You can see it from the rear here. So the first floor is not habitable, because it's flood zone compliant, so by code, it cannot be habitable. And I think that the building commissioner retracted that portion of his referral, so no, I don't believe that this would count as 3 stories.
Had to go for the 8'6", huh?
I mean, you know, even if it was 7'6", we're not talking about a substantial difference here, because, you know, the first floor, you have the garage space, so you need to be able to pull the car in. And even if you went to 7'6", which I think is the requirement for a new
Well,
construction.
I mean, even 8 feet, I mean, just, like I said, it just,
Yeah. I don't think there'd be an appreciable difference with a 34 feet 8 inches versus 33 feet 5 inches if we had
no, that would
reduced
be
it.
34 feet even. 6 and 6 is 12, last time I checked.
He's an attorney, not a mathematician.
Yeah.
If I was better at math, if I was better at math, I'd be a doctor.
Struggles doing the homework even.
When I help my kids with math homework, I'm like, I don't know what this is.
What are the entranceway stairs going to look like?
I'm not sure, like, inside in the first floor?
To get into the house? I'm walking over, I'm gonna knock on the door.
So this is ground level.
Yeah,
This is ground level, so there's no,
there's gonna be nothing.
no, it's flush. And you'll see you see the garage here, and there's a small porch here, so if you step up to the porch, but there's
So the
no.
sheds are going away, and they're just gonna use the back of the garage, because the garage is really long.
Well, right now, there's no garages. There are no garages on the houses that exist today. So that'll, you know, the storage will be in,
Storage, yeah. And no comp sheet for once
There was
in
a
your
comp
life.
sheet. Yeah, there is a
Oh,
comp
I
sheet.
didn't see one, I went through the file.
No, there wasn't, as part of
And
the
this was
application.
average, you think?
Well, in terms
You
of
get
footprint,
around the corner.
I was like,
in terms of footprint, it was only marginally higher than the average. Gross floor area was higher.
Yeah.
But-
I mean, I saw houses that were like this size, but they had like a yard, like a real yard.
Yeah, well,
I didn't see this. Oh, okay.
down on the water, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, you have any questions, Tony? Go for it.
Just a couple questions. Just to follow up with because it's 24.4%. For you not to have an entry stair means that the first floor is a slab on grade.
Well, yeah, it has to be, because it's flood zone compliant. You can't have,
So it has to be a slab on grade.
Yeah, you
All right,
can't have
So
a-
then you're right, there's no step.
yeah, you can't have a basement in a flood, and in order to be flood zone compliant, you can't have a basement.
That was, now, I did read Mr. Street's comment about we need to decide if this is 3 stories or not.
And then there was a revised referral that came in, which removed that. And I have a copy of it if you'd like.
Yeah, no, I absolutely believe it.
Yep.
And that, as long as he does not think it's a 3-story building, it's under 35 feet.
No, it's not.
I mean,
Really?
it's 34 feet,
No,
8
It
inches.
is under 35 feet.
Yeah,
It's,
the answer is it's under 35.
one-
And we'll have it as-built,
He said,
that I had no other question.
I thought I saw 35 somewhere here.
No, it's 34.8, I think.
Right.
sometimes it shows it at the elevation, Mr. Finneran.
It does say on the plan 35.
Yeah, I saw
That's where you
35
saw
on
it.
it by now.
I think it's on the last page on the right.
Yeah,
I did see it too.
yeah, height 35 from,
Oh, it says it right on there.
but doesn't that go
think
across
it-
to the,
I think that's just noting what the max is.
it looks
So-
like it goes across to the peak, though.
So if you look here, it says maximum ridge height 35 feet, and then it shows the actual ridge height at 34 feet, 8 inches.
So that's 4 inches. How come that, all those lines go straight across with my ruler? 4 inches disappeared.
I think it's just noting that the maximum is 35 feet, Mr. Finneran.
Yeah. You got 35 there. You got this line across, which goes to this peak, and it appears to be the same.
So, again, the height, the actual measurement is 34.8. This is just noting that the maximum ridge height is 35 feet from average grade.
Yeah, but the line goes to the, as I've said,
The-
the line,
Goes above.
It does not.
It goes to the ridge on in the
It
middle.
goes to the ridge,
Yeah.
right from there where it says 35. I mean,
So that's just a notation that the maximum is 35. The actual measurement is 34 feet, 8 inches.
it says 35 feet from grade. I got a level line all the way across to that peak.
So if you look here, the measurement is this 34 feet 8 inches. This is a notation, just saying that the maximum ridge height from grade.
That's 35 feet up there.
This is 34 feet, Gregor, this is 34 feet 8 inches?
from average grade to, 34 feet.
He's not the scale, so.
Yeah. So,
We're going to get it certified anyway.
Yeah.
so just to be clear, what we're proposing is a height of 34 feet 8
Yeah,
inches.
we'll get it certified. Be good. Anybody else have any other questions before we go to the public? Are you good?
Do I look good?
No. Are you all set down here? Anybody from the public want to comment? Richard, what about the landscaping?
I didn't see any.
Well, you could ask.
It's on the roof.
It'll be well landscaped.
We'll put Richard's
Strong,
condition down.
quite strong is the answer.
Mark, you're up.
Is everybody okay?
Yeah, well, okay, we're gonna, the, motion to close this testimony.
I'll second.
Everybody all set? You're all set? Applicants all set? You're good? Noreen, you have anything for us? We're all set? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second to close testimony. All those in favor? Aye. Any further discussion?
No, you don't want to hear it.
We got a lot of conditions, so make your list.
Motion to approve with conditions.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. All right, I have to do findings. This is going to be scary. I haven't done this in a long time. Oh, boy.
It's like riding a bike.
Huh?
It's like riding a bike.
All right, we're in an RC. We're in AE 12, AE 13. We're doing 240, 102A, 240, 113A4. It's a private road. Lot size is 11,253. Did I hear you say 203?
253.
I thought it said 253.
Yep.
It's 34 feet 8 inches, although my notes say 35 because I read the plan. Existing is 19.8 for structure, over 34.9 for everything. Proposed is 24.4, over 39.6.
Sheds to be removed.
Sheds to be removed. Nothing to be, well, that's on conditions for nothing else. What other conditions do I have? It eliminates the non-conforming setback from up front. Anything else you can think of for findings, Noreen?
125 feet of frontage.
125 feet of frontage. There was a comp sheet that Tony gave me. Not the applicant, Tony gave it to me.
You may want to make a finding that, that it is legally pre-existing non-conforming.
Oh, yeah,
as to the
from that
duplex.
town meeting vote, yeah. Include that date that he gave for town meeting and all
1964.
that. Any other findings you can think of? No. Noreen, can you think of any other ones?
The comments from the town departments.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's under conditions, no?
Findings.
Put them in findings
Findings,
and
okay.
conditions.
Okay.
Make a note,
All
you can see
boards.
it from outer space.
Per plans, all that? All right, conditions. Do I designate it a 3-story under findings? Because I can?
No.
All right. All right, findings, certified height,
Certified as-built on the
certified
foundation.
as-built,
Height at framing.
height at framing on the condition, okay. No other structures. All boards per plans.
You got coverage, certified coverage by structure, you got that?
Yeah, yeah. Conservation plans must be,
So what you're looking at is actually a mildly updated plan, just showing the 3 trees, and I'll be submitting a copy of this to Noreen. This was just finished today after consultation with Conservation.
okay, so we'll accept the conservation change when that comes under conditions. Anything else you can think of?
Construction hours, you got that?
Oh, yeah, hours of op. Yeah, this will be a tough one. You'll probably need police for this one.
I suspect we may not, because there is that 30-foot setback on the southern
Yeah.
side and a pretty, 26-foot setback on the front. So once the house is demoed, I suspect we may not. But of course, if it is needed, we will.
All construction, equipment and vehicles on site?
Yeah, on site. Hours of op, 7 to 7. You know all those. Do we need anything for the demolition under condition? No?
Oh, except you will have to comply with wastewater regarding the sewer. So they didn't submit anything, but typically you have to apply with wastewater before you do demo, so that if there's any sewer components that need to be protected, that takes place.
They typically want the line capped before demo, and that's all
Just
building permit
Comply with
requirements.
wastewater.
Okay. All right. I think that's it, right?
Think so?
Assessor review.
Assessor review, condition. Landscaping
Addresses.
to be submitted.
Is there a requirement for landscaping plan?
No.
Yeah,
No.
there is for me. I want to see 3 trees.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll submit the revised plan, yes, showing the 3 trees, okay. Typically, landscaping plan is like a more detailed, like, full-on landscaping plan, which I just,
The 2-story units?
I think we're all set. You good, Noreen?
Yep.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, none. We're good.
wonderful, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate your time this evening. Glad we could be a little quicker.
All right. Thanks for giving me that comment. I even looked.
I just been robbed.
What?
I feel like I've just been robbed.
Oh, come on now.
Minutes?
All right, minutes.
We can vote those next meeting.
Table and both. Board discussion?
Seeing none?
Seeing none. Board updates.
We talk about Kevin's lucky shirt again.
That's a lucky one?
Different one than last time.
Similar.
Christmas,
They're all pretty similar.
Christmas gifts.
Zoning administrator updates.
So Zoning Board of Appeals is anticipating going live on Permitize as of Monday, January 12th. That will mean that applicants can apply online. We will still be requesting paper copies for board members for review. So we expect that there will be some bumpy starts for this, but
Good
we're
luck.
hoping that as we move forward, it will be smooth sailing.
Good luck.
But we will still get our paper copies,
You will
plans.
still get, yes.
Yeah, there's no way I'm gonna work on permit hours.
No, at some point in time, I'm sure the town will move toward board members working totally, electronically, so perhaps they will
Ain't gonna
provide,
happen with this kid.
you know,
Blind in one
that
eye,
when you
can't
stay
see
home?
out of the other.
No, well, that would be nice. But, give you some electronics to use so that you can look at the plans while you're sitting there.
I can't read them now on
Yeah.
computer, never mind.
I need one of those big,
You have to blow them up, yeah.
Sonny.
At some point in time, paper will start to go away.
Well, when I'm gone, that'll be a good time.
Yeah. Right.
Future agenda items. No? And then our next public hearing, do I mention executive hearing? I'm going to. We have an executive hearing at 5:30 next Thursday, and our public hearing is at
Executive
6.
session.
Session, yeah.
Executive
whatever.
session at 5:30, and then the public hearing is at 6 o'clock on January 15th. That'll be on our next meeting.
Now, there was a ton of stuff that went with that.
What, with what?
that George sent,
Yeah.
and like I said, I can't read well on the computer. I need to get a big,
You'll print all that
So,
stuff for us?
yeah, I was amazed when I erased it, how much, it took like 10% of my memory.
Well, yeah, just
No, that's gone.
We
Yeah.
couldn't comment on that.
so just understand that there were 2 exhibits that were attached to the
Yeah.
document that was
Right, it's not
prepared.
gonna be that bad.
One of the exhibits was the entire housing production plan. So
Oh.
we will not be printing those
Oh,
out
yeah,
for you.
well, okay, that explains
That's
that.
153 pages.
Yeah.
Yep. So anybody that wants paper copies, let us know. Ashley will put those together for you.
I want a paper copy.
I don't have to worry about that, because I know Scott read it all.
At least the first 149 pages. We're going to adjourn.
Oh, that's him.
Oh, motion to adjourn, Madam Chair, and
We have a second from Scott. All
Hobble
those in
out of here.
favor? Aye.